Hi, folks. I'm Don Meisner, and I want to welcome you to an Up North NY chat. And today's chat's pretty special for me because a person that has been part of my life for several years, but a lot of times from a distance, but has affected me greatly, is here to talk to us about a day way back years ago that we went fishing and how this, maybe along with so many other things, has sort of become part of his future as he went forward. So today I'm going to be with Dave Swanson and his son-in-law, Dusan. And Dusan came over here from Serbia years ago on a program that Dave had sort of inaugurated because Dusan was seeing his daughter. And so it's quite a story. But Dave, tell a little bit how Dusan came to be here in upstate New York. And then I'll go on about how we met and how we went fishing one day.
Well, most of the people that are watching this probably don't realize it, but I ran a small bank in upstate New York for a long time. And Dusan and my daughter had met sometime earlier, actually in Serbia. And suddenly one day I got an email from her asking me if I had any idea if any of the local banks, or if I knew of any bank that might have an internship available for someone looking from Serbia, looking to be able to do an internship. And I sort of, the bank that I ran did internships on a pretty regular basis, and I thought, well, sure, I could probably figure out how to do that ourselves. And so we had to jump through some hoops because it was a little bit tricky to create the internship, but we developed an internship that involved having Dusan come in and become, or help us develop a pandemic plan of all things, considering what's been going on in the last 2 years now. This was 2009, so we put together a plan, and he received a visa to be able to come and perform the internship. I think it was roughly a month long, if I'm not mistaken. And he basically helped the bank in the development of its pandemic plan that the regulators were looking for us to develop. So that's how this whole thing got started.
Well, let me go to the same time and how I got to know Dusan, because Dusan had come out to Dave's camp on the Grass River for a party or a get together with the family, and I met Dusan for the first time. And as I've always said to so many people, there's more in life that I'm interested in than just whether a fish is going to bite at the end of a hook. And Dusan and I immediately started talking about things that normally I don't talk to many people about. We were talking about books, and we were talking about ideas and worldly thoughts and so forth. And I was really, really not only captivated, but I thought, wow, this young guy is really special. And I thought this so much that I wanted to do an interview on the water for one of my Streamside episodes with Dusan. I knew that he had never fished over here, never fished for smallmouth bass like we were going to do, but that wasn't really important. And so this day we went over to the Grass River, and what I thought was so fascinating, and what this is really about, is what it was like for somebody, a young man that had come from Serbia, of all the history that Serbia, and especially recent history of what he had been through in his part of the world, and what his perspective was. What was it like to come to America? Was that legend and that dream of coming to America? Did he feel all that? How was this different? There was just so many questions that I wanted to ask him. And I remember we went out on the Grass River to one of my favorite places. I don't think we caught a lot of fish, but it was hopefully a beginning where Dusan got to feel and see what our outdoor tradition here, not only in upstate New York, but really here in America, and how fishing could play a role in his life if he was fortunate enough to be able to continue living here. And so the story is long. The history is still in the process of pursuing itself. But now, years later, there's been so many changes, and I wonder for Dushin, looking back at young Dushin at that age, uh, how powerful being here and what what all this transformation was it has been in his life in becoming a person that lives in this country. So that's a lot. That's a lot said. It's fascinating to me, and so that's why I wanted you to be here today, Dushin, because how important was that day going out? And I know compared to all the other things that have happened in your life, getting married to Dave's daughter, to being here working in central New York in our school systems, how what did this play for you being able to go out in the river that day, and how has it brought you to the point where you are now?
Don, Dave, I can't tell you how amazing it is that we are here today. We're talking about this. It's when I look back to that day, it's hard to imagine that hey 13 years later we will be talking about this at Zoom session in January of 2021. So it's amazing. Don, it's so funny when you think about the perspective of different people. I remember that day as a really good, successful fishing day, right? We didn't catch a big, but we caught a lot of small, small bass, with numbers, and I remember I was like really happy how it went actually. But beside that, through going through life, I really started looking at the days that made a difference in my life, and not just because of you being there and Dave being there, but because the emotion that I still remember to this day of that day is what makes it significant. I remember the emotion of happiness, uh, uh, comfort, being with both of you and being, in my mind, still kind of strangers to you guys, but being comfortable, with everything that happened with that, being so happy about the day and conversations that we had. Then the change that it made is I realized that I can live with you. I can live with you as who you are, with that nature. Obviously, it's gorgeous. Like that's not a problem, but the people are what makes the place. I was recently back in my home, in my motherland. By the way, I learned two different words that I should use these days. Motherland and homeland. So this is homeland, and motherland is Serbia, right? Motherland, place where you were born, and place where you consider home. So motherland, in Serbia the other month when I was there, I realized that because some people are not there anymore, the place is not the same. So that's how the same way I look at the Grass River that day. It is a Grass River. It is gorgeous. It is beautiful. But without you and Dave and myself with it, it's not the same place. So it was amazing day. And honestly, that is a significant day in my life because it really reinforced my idea of living in America. What do I want in life? And not just fishing, obviously, but people that I want in my life. So thank you for that. I
Well,
didn't realize back then how big it will be.
well, in talking about how big it will be, how is living in America now that you've been here for several years? How is it different than the thought, the dream, or the maybe the anticipation that you had back then as a young guy?
It's exactly 10 years. So April 29th of 2021 is it was exactly 10 years since I got here. So 10 years and several other months. Uh, I mean, I really did not imagine. I couldn't even imagine where it will take us and where I will be 10 years later. Back in 2011 when I came, for the first 8 months, I could not find a job. 8 months later, um, 10 months later, actually, I found the first job in Geneva, New York. in a glass manufacturing company called Guardian. I stayed there for 3.5 years. After that, I moved to a higher education. I got the job as an IT manager at Cuba College in beside Cuca Lake, which is another gorgeous place to fish. By the way, it's just amazing. I mean, the whole Finger Lakes, and this is another amazing thing in my life, right? Like I went from upstate New York, where I wanted really to go. I really wanted to live up north, to be beside the Grass River, St. Lawrence, but things did not line up. But I end up in Finger Lakes, right? Like another amazing place. I mean, gorgeous place to live. So the jobs took me from Cuca Lake, Cuca College, to another lake, Seneca Lake, with Hobart and Willis McCodges in Geneva, New York. And now I'm currently at Ithaca College in Ithaca, New York, on the shores of Cayuga Lake. So it's kind of funny when you think about my whole life. I was following the lakes or some bodies of water, and I stayed around good fishing spots. So currently, I'm naturalized citizen since 2015. So I'm a dual citizen of the United States and Serbia. I learned more about fishing and about life than I could ever imagine. It's there's so many things that happened that changed my life that is just incredible. I mean, when you asked me and you said American dream, I always kind of joked about American Dream, and I thought it was, looking from as an outsider, I always thought that it's a American propaganda towards the rest of the world, like to show off and say, hey, look how cool we are. We have American Dream. You guys don't, or the rest of the world doesn't. But now looking from the inside, and honestly, I live my dream. I live my American Dream. I do have to be, realistic. It's not possible for everyone, but it's possible for some of us. So it's also, I think, perspective of the individuals. What is the dream? What is the dream that they want to pursue? So I have to admit, I definitely got
Well, you said a couple things that were really poignant and really powerful to me. One of them is talking about your homeland, or this is homeland, and that was your motherland. Did you say?
Yes. Yes.
And your homeland is constantly changing. And you also talked about how the Grass River, this wonderful fishery that we talk about, only one of many wonderful fisheries. But when people are watching us and listening to us, they may live in other areas. And we want them to understand that the real power of what fishing can bring you is to be able to enjoy your homeland as much as possible. And I think that's not only very powerful, but it's very true. And we it's about the experience. And you said the Grass River, as great as it is not the same without Dave and me with you, because that's part of what forged your experience. And I think that's important for everybody to realize that the real joy in being in the outdoors sometimes is being able to share and being able to experience things that you might not have even seen without those people that are important to you. So, with all that said, and I know for Dave, not only becoming his son-in-law, but being able to share some of the things that he's able to give you down there, going out and Cayuga Lake with him and fishing. You wouldn't have that opportunity maybe if it wasn't for Dave taking you along, but you get to, again, enjoy each outdoor experience has its own special marvel. And those are things that I think a lot of times we're not aware of. I know for me, I think of my motherland, which was a different part of New York State, but it was down in Allegheny County on the Genesee River, growing up fishing trout on that river. And that beckons me in so many ways. But yet, my homeland has really become America in general, not just living up here in the North Country, but all the different places that I've been blessed in my life to be able to go on our continent. And I've been able to take people like Dave and people like Louis Barkley that we've talked about recently to share some of those experiences with me. But I don't, I remember that day, and I remember the day that you went fishing with me, and my son Donnie, who is living in Virginia, and he watched that, and I'll tell you exactly what he said. He said to me, "Dad, Houston's the best guest you've ever had on any of your shows that you've ever done," and I think it was because you were you, and you had an opportunity to share so many things that other people might never have known or been able to experience. Your life has been really a tremendous blend of your motherland and your new homeland, and I think both of these things are part of what makes you you. And so this is a great opportunity for me to get to talk to you again. I look forward to when we can go out fishing. I will tell you, and I wanted to tell you this, the very place that 10 years ago, or how many years ago, we did that video down there on the Grass River. This summer, I went down to the same place one evening, and I thought, okay, I'm going to go right by the bridge, if you remember, where we walked down right at the bridge. And this was at 6 or 7 o'clock in the evening. And I shut my car off, and down I went, and I took out a lure, and I started catching a couple fish, and I thought, oh, I left the extra lures back in my car. So I go back to the car, I open it up, like all the stupid things that I do. I lay my keys down while I grab my little tackle box and get the lures, close the trunk, go back down to the water, and realize, oh, my car's locked up. I'm many miles from home. So I call Linda and I say, Linda, you got to come rescue me. In the meantime, I know it's going to take her an hour to get there. I go back down to the spot. I figure, well, I'll go down and fish. And Dushin, I'm not kidding you. And I sound like the most lying fisherman in the world. And that takes a lot to be a lying fisherman. But anyway, I went down to that same spot and I caught 40. Again, I know this. Nobody will ever listen to me again because they'll figure, gosh, he's either gone senile or he's a blowhard. But in 47 consecutive casts, I caught a bass. Every single cast. And every one of them were 12 inches to 13 to 14. I mean, they were big. They were beautiful, big bass right in that spot. And I'm thinking, holy cow, if this could have happened with Dushin, right now, instead of teaching school or doing whatever you're doing with all these colleges, you'd be a professional guide someplace because it would have really hooked you forever. But anyway, I've stolen this part of it, and I know you've impacted Dave's life incredibly, not just as a son-in-law, but as a friend and somebody that he can share those important things in his life. So Dave, I'll let you take over the threshold of our three-way talk here.
Okay, well, just to expand on that a little bit, I have to say your last comment about expanding my horizons a little bit. I've gotten, as a result of the relationship, gotten to experience Serbia and have spent several weeks over the years in Serbia and neighboring countries. And in fact, we went on a trip. Heather and Dushin and I went to Serbia for a wedding and on to Croatia and Montenegro and Bosnia and back to Serbia. And it was one of those trips that it's an experience that everybody needs to have, and it's probably one that it's not probably, it's one that I never would have had if it weren't for Dushin. So he got to share his country and several times with me, and I look forward to the day that maybe we get to do this all again. But because it really was an experience that I will never forget. As it pertains to the fishing, I did want to mention that show that we put together that is on the YouTube channel on Up North NY at the moment. Was shot back in September of 2009, if I'm not mistaken, when Dushin was here for the internship. He mentioned arriving in 2011, so it was actually almost a year and a half between the time he was here for the internship and the next time he came. But with respect to the video, we discovered, and I've discovered, that I still have some unshown video from that day. So I've been working on a new cut, or what you might call a remastered version of that video. So it'll contain some of the original video along with new segments of video that weren't shown the original time through, that we'll be posting to the channel at some point in the not too distant future.
Well, I would like to ask Christian now, again, going back to that day on the Grass River, and I said this as I was sort of leading into us being able to talk together, but that day was, I think, sort of the beginning where you got to experience something that was very much part of Dave and my whole tradition of growing up. Our whole background was immersed in this fishing and outdoor life that we lived. And while you've been very busy, and it's very difficult for you to find the time a lot of times to be able to go outdoors, tell us, if you can, what being able to do that, being able to go fishing. And I know for you, it's not about, oh, do I catch all these fish? Or do I catch? It's more about the experience, which is what we talk about all the time. But how does this play a role in your life now? I don't mean you get a chance to go, but what does fishing give you that you might not have had if you weren't able to do this whenever the opportunity rises?
When I was a kid, I started going fishing with my father. He was a welder, and at a very early age, he realized that fishing really helps him kind of relax. And this is in the early 60s. He apparently read an article that said that for the welder, because of the exposure to such a high lights and frequency of the flashes from the welding, green and blue colors will calm welders' eyes and recover. So he realized back then, like, oh my God, I should go fishing, and look at the water and, trees and forest and sky. And, that will help me, on the weekends after, welding. So apparently that's why he started when he was in his early 20s, in teenage years. He was a farmer's kid, so he didn't have a lot of opportunity to go fishing around where they farmed. So he had to wait to go in what I would consider later in life, which is early 20s. But because of that, my brother and I, we went really early with him as a teenagers, and that was, that's again, from the first days, the time spent with people you love, right? With my brother, with my father, with friends of ours who would go fishing, right? So to this day, fishing stayed a very high emotional event. Things that really, empowers me to go back to, like, some other stressful situations at work or stuff, because I just resetted myself. I spend the time with people I really enjoy spending time with, and I love them, right? So to this day, fishing is that, being in peace, being with people you love, and looking at that fish as a as a reward for something that we're doing, right? Like when we catch it, but also, something that we respect, and, sometimes we put back, sometimes we do, use for our own survival, to eat. So it's a very, it's very precious process. Very, very beautiful.
Well,
And just, sorry, just you remind me earlier today, when we started conversation, that day on Grass River made such a huge impact on me that I literally made myself a goal that whenever someone comes to visit me from my motherland, I do one of the things that they have to do if even if they're not into fishing, but hopefully if they're into fishing, I will take them up there. So when my father came first time, the first thing we decided that we had to do is go up north and go fishing. And that's what we did. And believe it or not, on his first run, he caught a muskie. And the craziness of that event is that I fished for like I think 3 years at least before that, and I could not catch a muskie. He came first fishing trip in on a grass river, and he caught a muskie. So that's those are that's how impactful how impactful that day was for me. And I'm waiting. I have a twin brother, I think, as you know, and I can't wait. I was telling him just this last trip, last month, I can't wait for you to come to US and I take you on a grass river. We take you to the grass river.
This is just, and I know Dave has probably got a powerful thing that you're the last things that you said have invoked in him. But I got to tell you, when you're talking about fishing with people you love, it brings up a couple things for me as I look back on my life. Every great friend that I've had, when I look in a person's life, they may have lots of people that they're friendly with, but they're really truly blessed by the few people that they can count on to be their friends. And the people in my life that have become great friends, the thing that's bonded us, the thing that we've shared to form this friendship has been fishing. And I think back to when I was a kid, and you made me think of this. Everything I learned about fishing, I think I learned from my father. And my father worked in we were far from rich, but he worked hard to support us. He worked in a plant. And then when I got a little bit older, I was still a kid, he worked in a plant that made buttons, and his position was to stir those vats and make that special formula that was going to make buttons just luster and be so beautiful. And that was what he did. But when he wasn't doing that, he spent, and I had 3 sisters that probably resented the heck out of this. But when he wasn't doing that, he was fishing with me. Every single weekend, we would go on a fishing, and then when it got late fall, we would go on a hunting trip. And he taught me how to fly fish, and he taught me how to shoot a gun, and so my memories and what forged our relationship was really that time we spent together with me learning and him knowing darn well that he was better than I was. Truthfully, I've never been as good a fisherman as what my father was. I can't cast a fly rod as good. I certainly can't. I'm not as good a wing shot with a shotgun. But I think that's such an important thing you said, because the person that I am is really a reflection of those special, special friends that I've had in life and what they brought to my life and how they helped me to somehow constantly try to be better, and to my father and all the time that he gave to me and how we forged that relationship through all those years. And so, what I really would love to do is sometime in the future, if you and me and Dave and your twin brother, who's coming here only to catch a muskie, but when you do come, it would be wonderful if we can get together again and sort of reflect more on how aren't we lucky to be alive and be doing this together.
Yeah, that would be amazing. Just imagine this as my twin brother, and then his first visit to us. That would be like a big recap of my first, visit, and you would get almost like same experience just from a different perspective, because we are fraternal twins. So you will probably get a different comment from him. So it would be interesting to see how he sees Grass River for the first time, and you, and the whole experience. It would be really funny. It would be it could be also almost like an experiment, right? Like with twins.
It'll give me something to really look forward to. And Dave, what you and I have done along with Dushin is totally shatter the secret of our favorite body of water and invite the whole world to come here and sort of experience something that I think is so unique and so special. Part of it is the beauty and the setting of the Grass River. And part of it is having that very fragile but very unique sort of species of muskies that live there, and that can offer an opportunity for somebody like Dushin's father to come from another country and to be able to experience what for so many others in this world is fish of thousands of casts. So I'm glad we had this opportunity to chat today, because while I had no idea how it all was going to go, because you never know what's going to come out of our minds and out of our mouths. But this has been really special for me, Dave, and I hope it has for you, Dushin. And I want to thank you. And Dave, whatever final thoughts, whether they take 30 seconds or 20 minutes, just feel free.
Well, I don't know that I have a lot of final thoughts to make here. I've always looked forward to getting a chance to have Dushin's brother here and his family. I think it would be an experience that they would really enjoy. You know, as he talked about family coming and taking them fishing, he's had other even friends come. The day we took Roscoe and Masha fishing on Cuba Lake when they were here was fun. Particularly as we were getting ready to back out of the boat hoist, and Masha said good luck, and everybody looked at her like she had two heads, because you're not supposed to say that before fishing. But yeah, I look forward to the opportunity for Dragon to come and experience the same things.
Well, I hope all of you have enjoyed as much as we have of meeting Dushin, getting a chance to. It's always, I think, a wonderful thing to be able to learn how other people might see the very same thing that means something to us. Maybe it can mean even more if we listen to others. I hope you've enjoyed today's show, and we look forward to the next time when we can get together on Up North NY Chat.